20 years ago, I was a student of psychology at university, and we were learning how to diagnose depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. And we were working on a case of a young woman with a physical disability. We were all quick to label. As you would know, our profession is famous. Quick to diagnose that her feeling of depression and anxiety was because of her physical disability. A little while later, she walks into the room and she shares her story firsthand. And she tells us that her deformity, her physical deformity, is because of the years of rape and chronic abuse, sexual abuse that she went through, and therefore her feelings of trauma. For us as students at that moment, we moved from paper to people, from theory to reality, and we engaged with a real human experience. As an educator, I know that the educational paradigm has changed. A lot of us realize that. Students learn differently. If I had to teach them out of a textbook or academic journals, they could very well look it up on the internet. How do I engage them with the real world, with real people? And therefore, years later in my classroom, here in the Netherlands, representing organization, education in the Western world, we struggle with this. We struggle with this transition from paper to people. And what did we do about it? We worked on a project. As an educational institution, we collaborated with a grassroots level organization and provided an opportunity for our students to step outdoors into the real world. We work with victims of human trafficking, bought and sold for sexual exploitation. And we work with young students, mature students as well. And working in the field of human trafficking, modern-day slavery can be challenging, as you can imagine. A very common response: really? Seriously? There are slaves in this day and age? And my response is, there are more slaves today than there ever were at any point in time in history. Another common response from students: we can't sympathize with them. Forget empathize, because their reality is so different from their own reality, and their real experience, their human experience, is so different from the people that they work with, live with, and speak to. As an instructor at that moment, it's a great beginning for me, because at that very moment, our students have realized that somebody else, approximately their own age, a few years plus and minus, lives a very different reality from their own. At that very moment, they understand what is human rights. When somebody is bought and sold and forced to have sex without protection, is there any human rights? Is there your basic human right to health care when you can't negotiate condom use? They understand that firsthand, that human rights could be the prerogative of the very few. What else do they work with? They understand that psychotherapy for people who live with trauma is a great option. But is it the first option? No. Because there is no psychotherapy on an empty stomach. And they see it firsthand. They realize when interventions are planned top-down, they fail. Because interventions need to be planned bottom-up. We need to understand what people really need and therefore work on strategies and implement them. And these are students who are going to be policy makers and decision makers of tomorrow. It's the future. Now, we work with victims of human trafficking, but once we start exploring, do we restrict ourselves only to sex trafficking? When you think about the term human trafficking, modern-day slavery, very often one response that we get is, Is it all about sex trafficking? No, it isn't. Our students engage in different forms of slavery, working with people, forced labor issues, and there are many other forms. What about us? Do you think that we've missed the bus? Most of us are out of university. This accelerated form of learning, is it only for students? Is this opportunity that we can move from paper to people, from theory to reality, only possible for university students and not for us? No, we can do it. And I'll show you how. How many of us like chocolate? How many of us like our smartphone? A lot. And how many of us women like our makeup, our cosmetic that shimmers and shines? Now, I can't take you outside. I can't transcend you into a different reality where I take you to the Ivory Coast and I make you see firsthand that there are young children who go out into the farms with their machetes to get their cocoa beans. Or take you to the mines where mica or mica, the mineral as it is called, that goes into your cosmetic, that helps it shimmer. Or young children that mine coltan, or coltan as it's called, that helps your phone and saves it from getting overheated and blowing up. I can't do that for you. But what I can do is ask you to question. Question where your cocoa beans come from. Question who mines this. Engage. It's not only about paper. It's not only what you see on social media. It's not only about the boats that are coming in with more and more people, which is a huge form of human trafficking. We need to go one step forward and engage with this human experience. Because you don't have to go to different parts of the world to do that. You can do this right here in your backyards. Because somewhere we are all linked to this slavery footprint and are contributing to this multi-billion-dollar industry. When you go back home today, look at the tags on your clothes. See where they are made. Our students will tell you which organizations have a very high slavery footprint and therefore can bring these clothes to you, which is high fashion at affordable prices. We all look for a good deal, don't we? Therefore, it is linked to our consumer behavior. And when our students go into the red light district and come back to me and tell me, it's depressing, you've spoiled it for us, because now when we see the women in the windows, we think differently. For me as an educator, at that moment, my job is done and has begun. Because I've taught them how to question now, and we've questioned together, and hopefully, in a few years from now, we will have an answer. You might think, oh my God, we are questioning our consumerism, we are questioning our behavior. It's depressing. We don't want to feel like that when we have our chocolate, do we? Our smartphones help us. We enjoy our cosmetics as well. But why don't we question and look further as well? I'm sure we can dent this multi-billion-dollar industry by saying that if we question where it comes from, somebody will be forced to give us an answer. And as one of my students told me, people care when they know. And I hope that when you know, you care. Thank you.